Hi everybody, how you doing? I am Johan. That is Charleston joining us today on the Better with Age webcast. We have this is going to be fan-fucking-tastic. We have a recent inductee into the Canadian Football League Hall of Fame. This man is the man, the myth, the legend in Calgary and all across the CFL, Mr. Will Johnson. Will, how are you doing today?
Not bad. Glad for the opportunity to be here to talk to you guys.
Yeah, we want to know.
So whatever you got to say, say.
Yeah. So shoot. Okay, we were just getting into the show where we were talking about how Charleston was just saying. Well, I'll let you say it first. That is it true that Huff traded you, Charleston, because you have the same amount of sacks as Will right now in the Canadian in Calgary?
The minute I tied him in sacks in 2017, it was at the end of the season. And then all of a sudden, Huff trades me out the blue when I was at the height of my career. And I'm building from there. And he just trades me. And then I saw a little sticky note on the side that said, Will Johnson called. And then I was wondering, started putting two and two together. Like, did he call? Did he call Huff and tell Huff to trade me after that season after I tied them in sacks?
You guys are tied right now for how many sacks with the Calgary Stampeders?
See if he knows.
99, but I think I got more. And in my 7.5-year career with the Stamps, I don't think they started keeping sacks until maybe a year or two afterwards, accurately anyway. My sacks aren't accurate. I'll let you know that right now, Charles.
Well, it's funny, Will, you said that. He was saying before the show, he was going, yeah, Johan, you know what? They got half sacks back in Will's days. If they had half sacks back in my days, I'd have way more than Will right now.
I'd have about 170, 200 sacks if we had half sacks.
You know what? They didn't have half sacks back then. I got to be honest. The first guy that got to the quarterback was the guy that got him. And if you had him and somebody took him out of your hands and he ended up on the ground from them, they gave it to the guy who was at the top of the pile, who took him out of your hands when you were at the bottom of the pile. So there's a bunch of inaccuracy there.
So you were the guy snatching people from the top, huh?
No, dude, I was coming low. When you come around that, hey, you know about when you come around that corner, you come around that corner fast.
Oh yeah.
You don't know where butt low.
So Will, I want to get into, first off, it's a pleasure. Congratulations on being inducted recently into the Canadian Football League Hall of Fame. That's a great accomplishment, especially when you just mentioned it. You didn't play as long as Charleston's been playing in the league. You didn't do as many things, but I want to know a little bit about how a man from Louisiana, gets to the CFL, because we've had guys like Don Narcisse on, and we've had, John Bowman. We've had lots of guys from the States that, that all of a sudden they get the call. You didn't have your first intention probably wasn't to come to the CFL into Canada. Tell us a little bit how you got started playing in Louisiana, right? Your college there, and then what happened after that with the great Chicago Bears, because that was my team back in the day, Will. I loved my idol growing up was Walter Payton, Sweetness. He was the man. He was the guy that I always loved to be able to see. I had a poster in my room of he was with which shoe company? I can't remember now, but it'll come to me. But he was always the guy that I loved to be able to see, because the way he ran over guys and the way that his work ethic, nobody was better than Sweetness, right? But Will, tell us a little bit about how you got into football, how you started off down in the States, and your story.
Well, I was a blue chip All-American coming out of high school, and I ended up going to my hometown university, Northeast Louisiana University, which is now the University of Monroe, Louisiana. It was a 2-division school. And I ended up playing my freshman year. I wish I had have gotten redshirted if I'd known what I know now. I wish I'd have got redshirted and had more time to develop. I always had a weight issue. So when I got drafted by the Bears, who were my favorite team,
really,
which I played for them, yep.
And
they were my favorite team coming out of university, and then I played for them and sort of kind of doused it. I played with all the greats, great coach Mike Ditka, and I played with Mike Singletary or backed him up, and Otis Wilson, Wilbur Marshall.
Yeah.
I was actually originally drafted as a defensive end to share time with Richard Dent, but I was only 212 pounds or so. By the time I think I got to camp, I was 219. So I was an undersized defensive lineman. So I got moved to an unnatural position for me, which was outside linebacker, supporting Otis Wilson and Wilbur Marshall. And if Mike Singletary got hurt, then Otis Wilson, one of them went to middle linebacker. I went to outside back. I think don't remember what team that happened, but it actually happened and I had to go in. But like I say, it was a natural position for me, but I had to learn to play it when you're in the NFL. In the NFL, it's just got to do it. You don't have any time to do anything.
So how was that?
You have a question?
Yeah, how was that? Like 2 years previous, you're in Louisiana. Were you watching the Super Bowl when they won in '85? Right, because the Super Bowl was in Louisiana when the Bears beat the Patriots. Right, were you watching that game?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
And then so you're watching that game 2 years later. What was the feeling of getting drafted in the 5th round by your team, by the Bears, by the great coach Ditka, Jim McMahon? I mean, that would have been kind of like Charleston playing for Detroit, right? I mean, when you
for hometown.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's a great feeling to play for hometown, especially because you don't need about 35 to 55 tickets.
Tickets for all the friends and family. But how was that like, Will, to be able to? What were your feelings when you got drafted by Chicago, and then you're going into the room and you're going, man, that's Mike Singletary, that's Coach Ditka, everybody there. What was your reaction?
Well, all I could think about is I'm around a bunch of legends, and when am I going to get my shot? Which every athlete thinks about when he gets in. Because I wasn't a special team player. I was always pulling hamstrings or groins. If Charleston had been in Calgary when I came up, he'd have known that I wasn't a special team guy. Because when I first came up, they put me on special teams. I pulled a quad or groin, and then they took me off all special teams for the rest of my career. I never played it down on special teams. So I'm not a special teams guy.
Yeah. Well, at least you got that out of the way early. You knew that you're not playing special teams. Hell no.
I don't do special teams. Yeah. Man, they made me struggle through special teams. Like, I didn't play no special teams in college or high school. I played a little bit in high school, but in college, I did not touch a down of special teams. And the minute I get to professional sports, what do I got to learn? Kickoff, kick return, punt. I got to do all this special team stuff, and I'm running downfield, don't know what I'm doing really. I'm just trying to be a ball hawk and just run to the football. And special teams, it takes a different type of mentality to be like a elite special teams player. You got to not care about your body.
Yeah.
You got to be able to run into a brick wall. Got to be able to run through people. You got to be able to see contact and see the flow of what they're trying to do. Like, I can't see that stuff. Like, because I'm just like Will, I'm not a special teams player. So really, I was making plays on special teams just by running down and just getting in the way.
So, Will, you're not a special teams player. You're in Chicago. What were some of those conversations like with Coach Ditka? How was Coach Ditka? Was he a prick? Was he a guy that you would sit there and learn a lot from? Or, Mike Singletary, did they take you out in the town? You played 11 games in the NFL. How was that first year like? What are some of the things you remember about that?
Well, like I said, it was a learning curve for me because they moved me to outside linebacker. Nobody really told you anything or showed you anything. Otis Wilson and Wilbur Marshall helped me out a bit. Richard Dent helped me out a bit. The quarterback, the head coach for Washington, what's his name?
Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera.
Yeah, Ron Rivera.
Yeah.
Ron Rivera and Jim Morrissey helped me out a bit. They were also linebackers back in the day with me. So,
yeah.
I mean, I learned from a great group of guys. But, again, I had to get acclimated. It's like being a sophomore in university, and they're already projecting you to be a third-round draft pick. Then you get injured your junior year, and now you drop down to the 5th round out of 12 rounds. And, you know, you go to the team that you idolize when you were young, and then, I mean, you meet a bunch of legendary guys, and you got to fit in somehow. I mean, I had a character, but I'm young. I'm young on the team. I'm new to the team. So I basically can't voice myself or be as standoutish as I normally am, because it come across wrong.
Yeah.
You know, it was, they had multi-personalities on the team, which I think is what it takes to be winners. And Mike Ditka, he had the skill to take all those different personalities and home them together to make them be that Super Bowl team in 1986. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Charleston, what would be your dream team? Or, you know, how do you react when you go into a room with athletes that you admire, right? Like, I mean, Will's going into the room with some of the greatest football players that are out there, and they're in the probably prime of their careers, right? You know, how do you adjust to that as a young rookie? Because, I mean, you got to be able to, can't be as, right now athletes can be cocky. It's different. Back then, you couldn't be as cocky.
When it comes to sports, man, it's different though, because the first thing you learn when you get in there is whatever, like Mike Singletary doing, I can't emulate kind of what he's doing and do what he does, because he's already established. So he's gonna do stuff his way, even if he does mess up. You know, the coaching is gonna yell at him. So I can't really follow behind him and do the same stuff he do, because I got to be 100% correct all the time.
Yeah.
I can't mess up at all, because my leash is shorter than his, right? So it's one of those things where you just got to keep your head in the right spot and compete. You're there to make the team. That's how I approached it. I think the one thing I did do, which was weird, was I used to wear a lot of jerseys, you know, growing up, and wear a lot of football jerseys and stuff like that. And then when I got to playing with these guys that I was wearing jerseys, I was thinking like, you know, that's kind of, yeah, that's kind of, that's kind of weird now. Yeah. So I took all those jerseys and gave them to my, that's why he laughing, because I'm like, I gave every last jersey that I used to have away to my little brother, and just gave them away to family, because I was like, man, I used to wear football jerseys, basketball jerseys, but the minute I became a professional athlete, I was like, why the hell am I wearing his jersey? And then, yeah, it's time to go.
So, Will, then, how do you remember then about your year in Chicago? Is there anything else that you remember about the travel or playing in the NFL, and then what led you to the CFL?
Oh man, when I was with the Bears, we traveled on a plane, whether it was chartered or we just caught a plane. Man, it was like being in a dorm room. You know, we push the seats back, make tables out of them. We gamble, and we just, I mean, the stewardess, I mean, I don't know who they went home with that night, but they were all, you know, they had a whole bunch of men in there, and it was just, I don't know, it was something unbelievable for a young guy to experience. And this is the lifestyle. This is a lifestyle. And, you know, it was great. I mean, and you know, the guys, you know, they had to have two personalities almost, you know, like I was Mike Singletary's roommate. So I saw him in a different light off the field as opposed to on the field. And I imagine all the guys went out with Richard Dent and all those other guys. I didn't go out as much. I went out a couple times, and the lifestyle is just it's unimaginable. Is until you get there and you see it, and it's just not. I mean, for a new guy,
Yeah.
I stayed in control, though. Don't think I stayed in control.
Will was good. Okay, then I'll ask you this, Will. What was the most fucked up thing that you saw during that 1 year in the NFL from the Bears? Or was there any loud, or was there any extravagant purchase that a guy made that you're going like, what the hell? Or was there anything that you just were kind of shocked by some of the teammates' behaviors or something?
I'm pretty sure y'all still had the rookies had to buy lunch for the plane, buy dinner for the plane. We got to go on planes.
Nah, the weirdest thing is some locker room stuff, but I have to keep that on the text, so I won't. I'll just leave it at that. There's some shocking stuff that I saw in the locker room amongst these famous players. I mean, they were famous because they won the Super Bowl and they're in the NFL, and you see them on commercials, you see them on everything, even the Super Bowl shuffle and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I saw when I went there, but I wasn't really star-gazed or whatever, because I was there for a job too, and I wanted to get on the level they were on. So I didn't really idolize anybody. They were just human beings to me that I could learn from. And unfortunately, my second year, I pulled hamstrings. I kept getting injured, quad and hamstrings. I just couldn't run down on the field because all those Pro Bowlers are still there. And it's just like me coming up to Calgary and playing. And all of a sudden, I'm a 6-time All-Star, 5-time All-Canadian, run up to the Shinley, which is Defensive Player of the Year. Who's going to come in and take in my position,
Yeah.
So I'm relaxed. So I related that to back when I was with the Chicago Bears and when I was with the New Orleans Saints. They're not worried, unless I can do something that the coach would see to change their heads. Special teams wasn't it for me because I'd pull up lane.
Yeah.
So that's why I struggled in the NFL. And I had a personal issue where I basically got robbed, which if it hadn't happened, I probably would have still been in the NFL. But it happened, and I sort of kind of lost my desire to play come my third year when I'm with the Saints, in the Saints camp. And it happened to me my second year with the Bears. I think that's what transpired, which caused me to get injured and just basically unable to heal because of the stress level I was going through. I think that would end my NFL career for me.
So, Will, it's funny that you said that about anxiety, or, we just did a show about mental health, right? And we were talking about how mental health has affected so many people nowadays. But it's funny to hear you didn't talk about that. That would have been in about 88, 89, right? When you were robbed.
Yeah, 88, 89.
So around there, and, how that affected you. Did that shut you down? Did that, did your anxiety then go through the roof? How did that affect you, to not play in the NFL or to at least lose the opportunity, right? How did that affect you?
Well, I got up to 256 pounds, which I could have easily went back to gain another 4 and been over 260. And went back to my natural position, which is D-line. But then when it happened to me, I went back down to lost weight. I went down to 219.
It's a big fluctuation
which
right
totally,
there.
yeah, which totally changed my game plan as to, because I'm not a natural, well, I don't cover wide receivers and running backs and
Yeah.
probably cover tight end, but I was covering wide receivers and running backs at 6'5", 219 pounds.
Jeez.
You know, I'm not built for that. If I was 5'11" or 6 feet, maybe, but I'm 6'5". And I've been playing in all my life.
Yeah.
And to be moved to an unnatural position just when my career starting to get off in the NFL, I think was unfair to me. But at the same time, it was fair because I was a small guy playing defensive end. I figured to give me a year to gain my weight, and then, you know, I could play defensive end. I do special teams until that point. But then, again, this personal thing happened to me, and I lost my weight. It devastated me. I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to remember. That was years ago. Of my state of mind. Well, I guess I was out of it to lose, to not eat and go from 259 to 219 or 256 to 219. Something had to have been going on because I couldn't eat. I lost life. You know, I lost a part of me. I lost something important to me because it cost me my NFL. It wasn't that I wasn't good enough to play. I was out of. I was already out of my element at defensive line, and then to have this happen just took its toll on me, and I started getting injured, which wasn't good. Then I ended up later on going to New Orleans, which in my mind I still didn't have that desire. So I asked to be put on waivers. And at the time, they didn't want to put me on waivers. They didn't put me on waivers, actually. They asked if I could come up to the CFL. It was Q Herrick was the GM with the New Orleans Saints at that time. And Q Herrick, who was coaching here in Calgary at that time, 89. So midway through CFL season, I came up with 9 games left to play for Q Herrick. Wally was the defense coordinator at the time. I guess forever and ever, they had losing seasons. And it was just crappy to be in Calgary. But I decided to come up to get away from the problem and sort of kind of resolve things in my life. And it was the best thing I ever did. Even though I didn't go back to the NFL, I was supposed to go back, come up here for a year and go back to New Orleans. But I exercised that option to stay up here because I wasn't about money. I was about being happy.
Nice. So what? Tell me this sort of interrupt. Well, what was, because we've had some of the guests on like Don Narcisse and John Bowman. Remember getting off the plane. So you're getting off the plane and your first time in Canada, I'm assuming, right? What was your first thoughts coming to Calgary? What was your first impression of Canada?
It's just a vacation. I'm on my vacation now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting away.
Yeah. And what did you think of the Stampeders? What did you think of the bigger field? What did you think of the different rules?
Yeah, because you're still a big defense. You're still a big defensive end when you come to the CFL. I mean, 6'5", 219. You're huge at that point. There ain't nobody in the CFL that big besides Willie Jefferson. He's the only one that's 6'5", maybe 220.
Well, after playing a couple games, and at that point, I could run all day. I didn't have any issues with running, and running was my thing. At that point, I decided this was made for me, a guy like me, because back then in the NFL, I would have been considered a tweener, and they didn't have any position for tweeners back then like they do now.
Yeah.
If they had that position for a tweener then, I probably would have stayed in the NFL. But because they didn't, I came up to, I was glad to have been up to Canada and play that tweener position. You know, I think they call it a different, they call it rush in back then, but they call it a different thing now, different position now. They always change the names. But yeah, if I never would have experienced that tweener if I had never came up here. And I had to protect that wide side of the field majority of the time.
And Charleston, how was it for you? Was it the same thing when you're, because this is the same story. You guys almost have the same story of coming, you know, from the States up. You're now in Calgary. You were, what was your impression when you were now in the CFL playing here in Canada? Were you shocked by it? Did you love Calgary?
I wasn't really shocked by it. I don't think so. I was shocked. I was more.
Did it take a while to learn everything, or the rules?
It just took a while to get where I needed to go, because this was like going to Calgary was like my last hurrah, really, to try to play professional sports. So after I left, you know, doing my tour around, trying to play in the NFL, I kind of had the same situation with Will. I was a tweener. I was too big to play free safety and too small to play linebacker, and wasn't tall enough to play defensive end. So it was one of those positions where I didn't have a place or a spot. So I kind of had the same, you know, scenario where I was fast enough, you know, but just wasn't big enough. So I ended up going through a lot of arena workouts, trying to make it in arena football. It didn't work out. And one guy, you know, messaged me and told me about, you know, this opportunity in Canada. And from that camp, and told me if I go down to his rookie mini camp and I make it out of there down in Florida, then I can come to Calgary next. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't even point to Calgary on a map. I didn't even know that side of Canada even existed. So, I mean, it's different for me because all I knew was Windsor, and everything outside of Windsor and Toronto was just Iceland. Yeah. So, I mean, just going to Calgary was a different atmosphere. I mean, like I said, once I played the game and saw, oh, this is different from what I'm used to. It's not the same kind of football because it's built for smaller, faster, kind of more mobile kind of guys. So, I mean, it ended up working to my favor.
Well, I think it worked out to both your guys' favor. And after this commercial break, we'll come back and we'll talk to Will. And we'll ask you, Will, about who are some of the best athletes you remember playing with, and who are some of the best athletes you remember playing against. Because
you don't got to mention me either.
I did.
You weren't even a thought.
Thank you, Will. Sometimes we got to put him in his place.
You're like a sperm.
Yeah, thank you, exactly. But we'll get more into discussions with Will about, you know, some of the athletes and what he thought of the CFL after this.
Hi, my name is Rob Peterson. I'm the broker owner of Realty One in Regina. Real estate and life is about great people, and that's why I'm associated with Charleston Hughes and Johan Zielinski and IKS to sponsor the Better with Age podcast. Realty One was founded in Regina 11 years ago. It's an independent brokerage, it's local, and it's full of great people helping great local Regina people buy and sell properties. It's entrepreneurial based, which means you have non-narcissistic agents that have your best interest in mind, not their own. In these coronavirus times, real estate market right now in Regina and Saskatchewan is thriving because people are thinking more local. They're not thinking about traveling because we can't, and that's driving our market. When you hire a realtor, no matter who it is, no matter what company, please interview them. Please make sure they're a good personal fit for you, because that's what this is all about. It's good people connecting themselves with someone that they know has their best interest in mind. And that's what the Realty One family does. And that's what a lot of agents in Regina do. But make sure you take your time and find the best fit for you and your family.
And we're back. Hi, everybody. How you doing? Okay, we're back with the Mr. Will Johnson. Will, we were talking a little bit before the break about your days in Calgary. You get to Calgary. what did you think of? Who are some of the first players that come to mind when you think of the Canadian Football League when you played? Like, you played with some greats. You're talking with, Alan Pitts. You're talking with Sapungis. You're talking with, Doug Flutie. You had some fantastic athletes back in the Alondra Johnson, yourself.
Play with some ballers.
Yeah.
See.
We're talking about the Calgary Stampeders. When you look them up, I was looking up the Wikipedia, and it said, Wally Buono's era was, from both the 90s to 2000 and some. But during that era, there's a list of some fantastic football players. Who are some of the guys that come to mind when you
I know
think
you
about
ain't never sacked Damon Allen.
Yeah, I've sacked Damon Allen. I've also missed him several times too. He's quite. He's quite elusive.
Do all you defensive ends just trash talk each other or remember these quarterbacks that you missed? Or the guys that were the worst?
I hate missing sacks. I don't know about you, but I hate missing sacks. And I might leave a game with 3 sacks and just go, ooh, I missed 3 more. The 3 that I missed is the ones that hurt me.
Yeah, those are the ones you remember. But Will, who are some of the players that you remember missing or that you remember getting back when you first started to play in the CFL?
Well, I think they watched plenty of film on me because they knew when I came around that corner, I'd make a drop step and I'd dip, and the tackle had no way of getting me. I used to beat tackles left to right clean when I wasn't hurt. You can tell when I'm playing hurt, and you can tell when I'm not playing hurt. That's the difference in my game. But when I wasn't playing hurt, I remember Damon Allen. I think he was it Ottawa? I believe he was with Ottawa. I came around the corner and I beat that tackle so clean. I should have never ducked my head, but I did because I thought I had a straight, clean shot. And I didn't see him when he did it because I had my head ducked. I just came around the corner. I was about to hit him. I was probably a foot from him. Damon took a step back and then did a spin move on him. And then I raised my head up with nobody there. And then I turned around and the tackle ear holes me. And I'm like, I didn't go down or anything. I just started, I looked over the tackle. I acted as if he wasn't even there. And I looked over the tackle and I saw Damian running for life. Man, I'm glad I had Alondra Johnson on my team at that time. Because, man, he saved my butt so many times. I pressured quarterbacks to Dickens, and either my tackle went inside gap instead of staying in his B gap, where I would flush him to him. I mean, if you was in, I don't know. I went through a lot of players when I played in that 7.5 years. I went through a lot of defensive linemen. I think I was the only mainstay in there from strong tackle to end. Yeah, I was the only mainstay. But through that 7-year career, they were all different guys. And but Damon Allen and him and Tracy Ham. Oh, Tracy knew that if the tackle took anywhere but if he wasn't in B gap, he knew he could come between me and just skirt out there and then just run. They actually beat us one year for playoffs on a play like that. The linebacker was out of position, and the tackle went out of position, and they just created that gap because I only had one job, and that was to come to the outside. I couldn't cheat like most of the players do now. They cheat. They go inside their tackle. I had C gap because I'm on the wide side of the field.
Yeah. If
I let the quarterback escape, that's a lot of yards. So they knew where I was coming from. They knew I wasn't going to cheat. That's called a disciplined player, by the way. I tell Montford that too. That's how y'all get y'all sacks, coming inside and cheating and everything.
See, that's not true for me, man. every last about 65 to 75% of my sacks come from off the edge. When I played for Chris Jones my first couple years, he did not let me go inside at all, and he made it well known that no interior rushes. If you let the quarterback get out the pocket, you coming to the sideline and you're gonna ride the bench for the rest of the game.
And see, that's why I had my issue. Guys, when I come around that corner, I smoke the quarterback back under. There's nobody there. So when we playing a guy like Tracy Ham, a linebacker should be smart enough to know that's what I'm going to do. And if the tackle's not in position, he's coming right through that gap. So that's what killed us a lot of times with Edmonton. But I think I was brought in to help with Edmonton, and we ended up beating Edmonton all the time. And the Grey Cup, you had to come through Calgary now, not Edmonton or anywhere else, but through Calgary my whole entire career.
Yeah.
You had to come through Calgary to get to the Grey Cup. But Damon Allen and Tracy Ham were the two. We actually had a battle going on. Me and Tracy Ham used to chat back and forth. He would go, "You can't do that. I'll do this." And I'll say, "Okay." And then I'd track him down. I had a 4.49 speed back then, but I had to track him down and clip him and catch him.
Oh, just wait. You see Charleston's face when you said 4.49?
No, 4.59.
4.59.
Oh, I thought you said 4.49. I was like,
I was like,
I won't tell that lie.
Even still, 4.59 speed's pretty good. So you're going
That's
around
still fast.
Yeah,
That's still
so
fast.
you're going around chasing Tracy Ham. Was he one of the biggest trash talkers out there too?
Just to me and him had our own little battles going on because I had the wide side of the field. And if he can get out on the wide side of the field on me, he's in control.
Yeah.
So I had to keep him in control a lot. I got photos of me chasing him and tackling him from behind when I over committed, and then he came under, or a lot of times I was getting double teamed back in the day too, by two backs or back and getting chipped by a line or back where the lineman's blocking me, or two linemen, one would come out from under the center, or a guard would come and help the tackle out or something. Not all the time, but somewhat the majority of the time.
What the rest of the D-line doing if you getting all these double teams?
Why do you think I told you they went through the defensive line? I was on the mainstay for 7.5 years.
They weren't doing their job, obviously.
I guarantee you, if you look through that roster, in that 7 years I played, there's going to be a lot of change along that defensive line, with the except for my position.
Will, I want to know about. We've like I mentioned before, we've had guys like John Bowman on, and he's a very outspoken defensive end that's very talented too. He's up there with the sacks. He kind of mentioned to us that there's a few guys that he remembers in his playing days that will not be getting Christmas cards from him. And there's some players that Charleston will not be sending some Christmas cards out to as well. Anybody that you can remember that you kind of, when you were going to play him, you're like, that SOB is getting it this game, or guys that you were like, oh man, I know it's going to be a battle with this guy because he doesn't play by the rules, or he's one of those guys that you're like, man, okay, I'm going to get it to him. I'm going to give it to him this time. Anybody like that comes to mind?
You know what? I never envisioned that because I like everybody. Football is a game where you're going against someone and either he's going to beat you or you're going to beat him. So I accept the challenge game in, game out. I had guys like Walby that would say, you ain't got a sack on me your whole career. You ain't going to get none now. Well, reason I haven't got a sack on you, you tackle me when I beat you. You grab my collar. You grab something on me to keep me from getting to the quarterback. He's the only guy I've never got a sack on, I believe.
Chris Walby.
Garrell, Mills, Schultze, all of them great tackles, but I beat them. One game against BC, Mills kept holding me. I told him to stop holding me, but he wouldn't. So this is the only time I ever got frustrated. I hit him so hard like this here knocked his helmet off his head. His helmet must have went about 40, 50 yards down the field, just like a turpine, just spinning. And he started yelling at the refs. Refs didn't see it, though, of course. I probably would have got kicked out of the game. But that was one of my most memorable moments. And Tom Higgins was my head coach. He loved it. Because these guys, the only way they could beat me was to grab me or hold me. Bear hug me, tackle me from behind, grab my legs, grab my collar, because I had a little collar that I like my shoulder pads small, but they eventually changed my shoulder pads out because I got a pinched nerve in my shoulder once. But they used to grab me and just terrorize me, and refs never did or said anything, and I became a bad boy because I would always curse the refs out. Me, AJ, Pope, they would always come after us because we didn't respect them because they wouldn't call the holder.
Yeah.
You know, it's as simple as that. Call it. You know? But, yeah, those guys, like I said, I liked them all. I actually still speak Garrell every now and again. He thought I hated him, but I never hated him. Like I said, I like everybody. Warby probably thinks I hate him. But Warby, if you ever watch this podcast, I don't hate you, bud. I think steel sharpens steel. I think you're one of the guys that made me who I am today.
There you go.
I was back then.
I like that.
Walby is a fan of this podcast too, so he will be watching this for sure. I've seen him like a couple episodes before.
I like that.
Okay.
I love that, and that's awesome to be able to hear. One thing I wanted to ask you, Will, is that I'm an Argo fan. I became an Argo fan when I started to watch, and I lived all my life in Saskatchewan, which is extremely odd, but I started to watch Conrich Holloway, Terry Greer back in the early 80s and all this stuff. But it was interesting as an Argo fan when you were playing with the Stampeders, because that was the days when Gretzky, McNall, John Candy, took over. And of course, one of their big signings was Rocket Ishmael. And of course, the Argos beat you guys in 91 in Winnipeg, to do that. How was it like to be able to play in that hype with, was that better for the CFL? Did you find it? What was it like to play against the big, bad, nasty Argos with Rocket coming in from from Notre Dame, the big signing?
You know what? I thought nothing of it. He puts his pants on the same way I did. I don't think nobody is above anyone. I think I'm just the same as your average Joe walking down in the streets. I may be exceptional in other things than that person, but we're still human beings. And I characterize us all as human beings. So I don't think anybody is any better, any different than anybody. Even myself, I don't think I'm better than anybody. I mean, yes, God gave me some gifted talents, and I use them. Everybody can't have those talents. I can't skate.
Yeah.
So, but it's not a knock on me. I don't go skating. I don't like hiking. Not a knock on me. I'm surprised you didn't bring up that ass whooping we took back in. Was it 92 or 91?
Which one?
When they beat us 72-18.
Oh,
they only beat us. They only beat us one. Come on.
Well, you could have said the Grey Cup too, because that wasn't that close too back in '91 when they beat you.
You losing like that? What coach tell you at halftime?
Man, it was special teams. We had a lot of, I think they scored 3 or 4 touchdowns on special teams. Rocket Ishmael was running shit back left to right, like he was just between air coming at him, and he was just running. We couldn't stop him on special teams.
What was it?
But I think we ended up beating them in the Grey Cup that year.
You beat them in '92, yeah, when you won your Grey Cup.
No, that was Winnipeg. Sorry, was it? Who was in Winnipeg? Who did we play in '92? It was Winnipeg, wasn't it?
I can't remember who you played in '92.
Because in '91 we played Toronto,
and you lost the game in that game in Winnipeg and doing that. But I can't remember who you won against in '92.
Donegan was the quarterback.
Yeah,
Donegan was the quarterback in both games.
Yeah.
So Winnipeg. Yeah, we came back and we dominated them in that in 92, but in 90, you're right. It was, I don't know if it was jet lag or what it was. I don't know.
Jet lag.
Yeah. I bet he got jet lag. When you lose by 70 points, and then you try to blame it on.
That was the great
season game. Yeah, that was when we were playing 3 games in 2 weeks.
Hey, he tried to blame it on special teams, but what happened to the other 50 points?
Dude, I gotta watch film again. That was so long ago, and I put that out of my mind. They whooped our asses, but never again. I think that's what made us strong. That's what made us strong. I think never again.
The one thing I'm going to take out of our conversation today, Will, is that you did not fucking like special teams, whether you're playing it or you weren't playing it or you're doing that. You did not like special teams no matter what. But let's talk a little.
Hey, Alonzo Johnson used to get mad at me. They were mad at me because I never played special teams. I told them you ain't no special player, so go back.
Let's talk about a little bit about how the CFL is today. Charleston, can you give us any update on what you're on the Players Association, you know, because of still your association with the Riders when you were voted in last year. What have you heard about anything today's date? Well, it won't air, but you know, we're in the end of May here. Now we're going into this. What have you heard from the CFL commissioner about playing? Have you guys been updated at all about any news or anything happening?
It's just, I mean, we get updated all the time, man. What people got to realize is right now, especially around this time, is it's tough. I mean, it's tough to try to have a season. Everybody can talk about having a season all they want about this August 5th date and keep throwing it in the air and putting it out there. But the reality of the situation is you know, it has to be the perfect scenario for us to have a season August 5th. You know, for us to start camp July 10th or something like that. So it all has to be the perfect scenario. Everything has to play into our favor. And you got to know that there has to be 3 things that got to happen in that situation. Got to be 3 people to okay it. The government has to okay us to play.
Yep.
The ownership group has to okay us to play. And the players have to okay to play. And until all 3 of those things are agreed upon, then, I mean, it's tough. Because one of the 3 say no, and then we're right back in the same situation we were in before. So when you got 3 different people with 3 different levels of thought process, it's hard to try to come to an agreement in that situation. And you just got to play it by ear and play it the best way you can, prepare for whatever there is to come, right?
So, Will, what's your take? You've been out of the CFL for a while, but you're still heavily involved, right? You said you still talk to a few of the guys, right? And they still reach out. You're just inducted into the CFL Hall of Fame. What's your take on how things are going with do you talk to the alumni? What are your thoughts on how the CFL's handled everything as a whole?
Yeah, I'm a board member with the alumni. So we just actually recently had a meeting, but we're mainly fundraising for our youth in the community. My deal with the CFL is if they don't be careful, we're not going to have one. So someone needs to wisen up. All those players are, I don't know if it's hurting or what. You got a lot of guys. I imagine you got a lot of guys hurting because the jobs are scarce out there.
Oh yeah, players hurting right now.
Yeah. So we got a lot of guys that want to come back. So we need to make this happen for those guys. They have families or whatnot. We need to do something to make it happen. Whatever precautionary steps we need to take, we take them. So much pride is involved in this. You need to look at other people and how they do it. You need to knock that chip off your shoulder and take like other people have done to make this work. You got a bunch of fans out there. You got a bunch of players out there that want this to happen. Like I say, if you don't watch out, a good thing is going to be gone. The CFL helped me. They actually saved my life. They helped me to get back on track. And I'm pretty sure there's some players out there that need the CFL like I did. It came at a perfect time for me. So in saying that, we need to happen this year. We need to make it work.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right, Will, and hopefully this.
You sound like a future commissioner right now.
Maybe we should have Will for commissioner. Maybe we can get your friend James West and some of those guys to be able to help out. We can get Walby going here too. He always likes to talk.
Board member of the alumni. Check.
You're not doing anything right now, are you, Will? Maybe
retired cop, police officer, knows the law, knows the book, knows law enforcement.
I got a couple of things going on, but I'm in semi-retirement mode. I just can't wait this over with so I can do some traveling. I had some plans when I left the service to travel, and then COVID hit, and I just been plotting the second life of my life. I've been plotting before I retire.
That's awesome. Everybody can't wait to travel now when this COVID stuff over.
Yeah. And hopefully we will get the CFL going on soon. Thank you, Will, for coming on our show. We really appreciate it going back. I know you and Charleston, like I said, I think every time DNs get together, you're going to trash talk each other.
Man,
you're going to talk about the sacks.
Because he was a leader in sacks for, Calgary Stampeder history.
20-something years, man.
Yeah.
It's still going.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to break that record. You had the opportunity to, and you screwed it up.
Oh, wow. There you go. Hey, but we did mention to Will, I'll give Will this, that he did mention that if there's anybody that he's happy with, that he's tied with, I guess, it is with you, right,
man,
right, Will?
If I was to lose the record to,
okay,
it would have been Charleston Hughes.
There you go.
I've come to know him as a special person in my life over the years. Aim used to go to the stadium, chat up with him sometime, and take photos with him,
Nice.
And he had to go to Saskatchewan on me. So I didn't put that in for you to go to Saskatchewan. I would have pretty much preferred you to stay here.
Now the truth comes out. I thought you said you
But now you're in Toronto. Come on, dude. Hey, you don't want to float around to too many teams.
Yeah. I gotta brace the rest of the CFL with my presence.
I hear you. That's why when we go to their place, we do it there.
Yeah.
There you go. Wise words from Will Johnson. Well, Will, thank you very much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. I love hearing the old stories. I love hearing about how you persisted over the NFL days and what you brought to the CFL. I think that's one of the great things of being a fan of the CFL. You get to remember players like yourself and how awesome it was to watch you play, and now to hear your stories and to know what you went through to become that great athlete here. So it was truly a pleasure. And I know Charleston's always thankful of your friendship, and I'll let Charleston close it off.
This was freaking awesome, man. I appreciate you coming on the show, man. Congratulations on making it to the Hall of Fame. Hopefully I'm there to join you one day, since I already didn't join you on this top sack list for Calgary. I'm still on my journey though, still playing, still trying to work my way up that list to the #1 spot. Hopefully I can knock it out in these next 2-3 years. We'll see how it goes, but guaranteed I'm gonna make it up there. But this is the Better with Age podcast, and the reason we call it the Better with Age podcast is because there's many things that get better with age. There's wine, there's whiskey. I'm 38 years old, still playing football, so there's my athletic ability that gets better with age. And out of all those things, that's most important is friendships, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to meet you, take pictures with you, become a co-record holder with you. It's also been a great opportunity, so thank you for coming on the show.
It's a brotherhood, brother. And the reason you left Calgary, you were injury prone, just so you know.
Wow. Famous parting last digs. You got to be able to give it to right before you go. Wow.
So that's what he talked to Huff about. See that?
I love it. I love it. Well,
No, I didn't talk to her about anything. That was their own doing. I would have kept you there, though.
yeah, he's never going to admit it, but
Yeah.
finally the truth comes out with
truth
Will.
comes out.
Well, thanks again.
Thanks again, guys.
Anytime. We'll see you soon, hopefully in Regina or Calgary.
All right, thanks.
All right. Take
Take care.